And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at a game called Shelfie Stacker. Now this is a board game with a theme that's really going to appeal mostly to board gamers because this is about stacking games on shelves. And there's a lot of wink wink in this game to some degree because it has a few terms that you, if you're not a board game collector, you might not get. A lot of people use Kallax shelves, which come from IKEA, which have these nice cubes, and this game is about filling those cubes up with games, trying to fit them in. It also has a shelf of shame, which is what a lot of people call a shelf of games that they have that they still haven't got around to playing. You know, and they keep buying more games, and you really need to play your game. So that's hence this shelf of shame. So that's the theming of this game. It is a game where you're going to be drafting dice, using special abilities on cards, putting those dice in the columns, and trying to score points in various ways. Well, let me show you in more detail now. In this game, each person has a bookshelf and a shelf of shame. You're going to throw all the dice. There are 4 colors of dice. Each of these dice have numbers 1 to 6, basically the number of games on them. So this is a 1, this is a 6. They're put into a bag of dice, and each round of the game, player is going to put 3 dice on each of these boxes. Basically, you're just pulling them randomly, and whatever numbers and colors go onto each one, that's what's going to be available for that round. There's going to be multiple rounds in this game, 7 rounds, and in those rounds, players are going to be playing a card from their hand. Now each player has 16 cards. You're going to use 8 of them each game. So before the game starts, you go through them and pick which 8 you're going to use. For your first game, just take 1 through 8. Each round of the game, you're going to play whichever cards you want, and then all reveal them at the same time. Whoever plays the lowest number is going to go first, then the next number, etc. If multiple people play the same number, you're going to use these little letters here on the bottom as tiebreakers. Once you figured out the order, in turn order, you're going to take a box of dice. So in this case, I think I'm going to take this box. This was a pretty good setup here of these 3 green dice. Each card that you play has a special ability. Like this says, store 1 dice from your box. On this travel case, return it to your box at any time. So I could, and I will use it. I'm going to put this 6 there, and I'll use that later. The rest of your dice, you put on your shelf if you can, or onto your shelf of shame, although these are worth negative points at the end of the game. Now the way you put things here is each column can only have 1 color, and each box of games, each shelf of games, has to be higher than the number below it. So I could put a 2 here, and then I could put this 3 on top of that. Now my goal is hopefully later on to get a 4, then a 5, then a 6. That's kind of perfect, but that may or may not happen, and later on I might just say, whatever, I'm going to put this 6 on top of this. You can have multiple columns with the same color, but each column can only have 1 of that color. Well, usually, because there are cards that let you do different things. There are all kinds of special abilities. Put a dice from your big shelf to your box. Increase the value of a die by 1 or decrease by 1. Put a die from your shelf of shame or big shelf and put it in this gift box. Decreasing the die. Flip a die to the opposite side. Treat a die if it's a different color. Reuse the ability of a card you've already used. And as you get higher, you go last using these numbers, but the abilities get better and better. Now, like I said, if you don't want to put a die out, let's say later on I get a 3, and I want to start a new column, so you just put it on your shelf of shame. These are going to be worth negative points at the end of the game. There's going to be 3 scoring cards that will be randomly selected. One of them is for a color of dice, and there are some various cards in a deck that have these different people. So you have 1 of these in play, and if you have the most, you need to get at least 3 of this dice at any point. You take this card, if someone gets more than you, they take it, and this is going to be worth 5 points at the end of the game. This is kind of an end of the game thing. Each pair of columns of the same height and color scores 5 points each. Having 8 or more dice of a single color on your big shelf scores. Each column with an odd number die at the top scores 2 points, etc. So there'll be 1 of those. And then there's 1 of these where if you put this exact color pattern on your shelf, the first person to do it will take that card. So you have these 3 scoring cards. So those are going to be added to your scoring at the end of the game. Other than that, you have a little scoring card that's going to show you exactly what to do, but you get 6 points for each column that ends at the top height. and you actually can put this right next to your board. So for example, here I got 6 points for this column, 3 points for a column of 4, and 1 point for a column of 3. Then you get 1 point per pip on the highest die of each column. So I get 6, 5, 6, 6, 6. That's pretty good scoring there. And then you get the bonus cards if you got them, and then minus 2 points for each die on your Shelf of Shame. Whoever has the highest score is the winner of the game. So in this set here, you have this nice tray which holds all the dice. You could put each color in its own section, but it's a lot faster for me to put them away like this. And everything fits nicely in a tray here. So this is really good component quality. The artwork is fine, it's cute, you know, cartoony artwork showing a variety of characters. I do think that possibly the amount of space that they spent on the text here could have been bigger. I mean, considering how big the cards are with the artwork. I really like these little boxes here. My favorite is the Crush Corners Couriers, who apparently deliver a lot of packages to my doors. These trays are really nice, having that inset board, the dual layer board, a scoring pad, and then just these cards I thought were fairly clear. But everything fits in here very easily. The extra shelves and all the cards. It's a really, really high quality production. Shelfie Stacker is a game that I like. I want to mention this at the very beginning because there's a few things about it that I find a little odd to some degree. So this is from Shem Phillips, who's a good game designer. I like a lot of his stuff. And this game works well. It reminds me of a lot of another dice game called Sagrada. There's definitely differences between these two games, but I feel like there's a lot of similarities as you're placing dice into a grid, scoring points based on how you build them with restrictions to how you put them in there. So here's the thing. This is a fairly simple game in many ways. You draft some dice, use your special abilities. But it's a simple game with a theme that's not going to appeal to everybody. Not everyone's going to get this idea of collecting games. This is like very focused at, well, the people who do it. So there's that, and the character cards with all their special abilities is the slightest bit, in my opinion, clunky on how you put them out there. So first of all, I played with the 1 through 8, and that was okay. Picking the 8 that I wanted from the 16 is much more fun, so I would only use that 1 through 8 that first game. But you have all these characters, and they're neat, but you don't have to use their ability on the turn you play them. So you have these cards next to your board, and then you can use like 3 on one turn, and then you're supposed to move them or flip them. It says the rules are like, put it on your head if you want to. I'm like, well, thanks, that's very useful. I just turned them over when they were done. But it just feels a little bit like there's more rules than the game deserves. The game has just get some dice, put them in order. You're pushing your luck. You know, do I put a 2 green on the bottom, or do I wait for the 1s and then try to get the, try to build them in exact order? Or do I say, you know what, I'm never going to get that 6. I'm never going to get a 5 green. A 6 green is available. I'm putting the 6 on top of the 4. That's fine, but those aren't really tough choices. You also can get pretty hosed at points in this game. Sometimes you play the card at the wrong time. You're stuck taking 3 dice that you either cap your columns off, which it doesn't do very well for you, or you stick them on your Shelf of Shame, which also isn't good for you. The bonus point cards are interesting. I like them. I will say at the end of the day, you just want a 5 or 6 at the top of every column, because that's a lot of points. You don't do that, you're not going to do as well as everyone else, because that's a massive amount of points. Now this sounds like a little bit like I don't like the game. I do. And each successive game of this got better for me. And for me, the game works really well because I do collect and sort and put games on shelves. I run the Dice Tower library. That's a good chunk of my job doing that. I find that fascinating. And I like the art in here and the pictures. We got terrifying Mars, Zombie Rising, Rising Bun. That sort of thing. I find it a little bit amusing. I like the different caricatures of the different people. Still not sure why there's an elf in there. I think it's a cosplayer, but I'm not sure. It looks like a real elf. Anyhow, I like all that. It's like a filler, a game you play in between other games, for gamers. That's a very specific audience. I don't know that I would use this as a welcoming game with people who don't play many games, because I don't think the theme will jive with them. I don't know that the cards might overwhelm them, and I can play Sagrada with them. So there's that. But taking all that out of the equation, like I said, this is like made for someone like me, a filler for gamers with amazing components. I love the dice, I love the trays, I love the cards, I love the art. All that comes together in a solid, good game. You just got to know who you're playing it with. Also, if you have a Shelf of Shame, start playing those games. Anyway, until next time, I'm Tom Vasel. We'll be taking a look at Shelfie Stacker on the Dice Tower. Dice Tower Judgment approved.